Good afternoon, everyone. Hello. So I'm Nazim Ali, representing from the School of Medicine. So today my talk is going to be focused on supporting student learning, and particularly with the aspect of collaborative learning, which I'm going to explain a bit more. And this is to do with one of the core elements of our curriculum is problem-based learning. And so it's where we take granted that students will engage with the discussion board on the KIITE, but where I found that there was minimal engagement, and so I used other technologies to see whether I can get students to be more involved. So PBL, 5 years ago, I didn't know what PBL was actually. So I'm going to give just a brief introduction and put that into context. So PBL originated in medical education. And it's basically, the aim is to put learning into context. So traditionally, particularly in the medical education field, students will learn, say, perhaps if they were doing cardiovascular diseases, then firstly they will learn all about the heart, the structure, function, and then they will go into learn about, diagnosing and treating pathology. But in PBL, these two things come in concurrent. So in the same week that they're doing everything about the heart, not only will they learn about the structure and function of the heart, but they'll also understand how to diagnose heart diseases and so forth. So is it any better? Well, this is what the research says, that in terms of students who come from PBL-orientated curriculum, they're better at clinical performance, and it also gives them opportunity to work efficiently and also helps in their interpersonal skills. That is communication, teamworking, and this is where I'm going to focus the theme of my talk. So, PBL is about splitting students into groups to work together. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be working effectively, because that's what we find, because it requires collaborative learning. What does that mean? Well, it means they're interdependent on another, because they're going to come together, pool their ideas to have a better understanding from the week they started to when they finish the week. So that's what collaborative learning for PBL is anyway. So let's put that into a little bit more into specificity. So what that means is, in terms of PBL, this is for them to better understand the case, or i.e. have a better understanding of the concepts. So there's a purposeful engagement, but that requires, because it's not didactic. As a tutor, as a PBL tutor, I'm there to facilitate their discussion. So there needs to be discussion among the students themselves. There needs to be open interactions. And obviously, as I said, this requires them to challenging others' ideas, not taking things on face value. So then there's a conflict of knowledge to help them co-construct knowledge. So that sounds all well and good. But in reality, from my own experience, as well as there's a lot of PBL tutors within our department, as well as what the research shows in the published papers, is that putting students together doesn't necessarily equate to a meaningful interaction. There's sometimes, and we hear a lot about this from tutors, is they didn't talk much. Sometimes we have students who like to dominate. Perhaps they know that subject well, or they just like to talk a bit. But then on the other side, we have students who, because they're not motivated for other reasons, they take the easy route out. They don't engage. And some students who would like to perhaps be involved, but they get ignored. So there are all these contributing factors which basically hinder PBL. So let me now just illustrate, because I'm going to show you some sort of data to illustrate how PBL, the framework that I work with. So basically in medical education, it's about using an authentic scenario to help students identify what they know, what they don't know. So in this case, as illustrated here, probably you won't be able to read this small text, but basically it's about blood clotting. So basically then students will, throughout the week, learn about how blood clots form, what are the the symptoms of this. So that's the opening session. Throughout the week, they will have lectures and labs to complement that learning. But come the second session, then this is where they come together to discuss what they've learned and to basically understand what is it that they didn't quite get as an individual, and help to each other to have a better understanding. So achieve a deeper understanding. But this is what happens in reality from what I find sometimes, not maybe at all the case, is there's minimal collaborative interaction. What does that mean? Well, what that means is basically students come with their notes and they just read off their notes. So there is actually no collaboration there because all they're doing is just reading me off the notes. They're not actually pulling that information together. So these are some of the issues that I identified, was that there was lack of interactive communication. Also, there was a lack of motivation for students to get involved. And one common thing, particularly in the research that I did that is related to this talk, was that a lot of students would start off as, where did you get that information? Oh, I didn't. Would you mind sharing me with that? And that took 10, 20 minutes, just establishing who got where. I thought, well, surely there must be a better way where students can share resources, because that's the whole point of it, before they come to the session. So then an idea, they know who's done what and build that idea. Well, you might think, well, surely we've got the discussion board for that. Well, I troll the discussion board a lot of times, and there's hardly any engagement with them because it's a thread-based way. And if you want to learn something like medicine, you need images, you need diagrams, and it's very hard to do that. So basically, I needed to come up with an alternative way of looking at this. So online computing or cloud-based computing, like Google Apps, allows students or users to interact in real time and from any device. And with something like Google Slides, it's just like PowerPoint. It allows students to incorporate different media, text, videos, diagrams, even take photo of their notes, and you can upload them. So this is what I wanted sort of to test was so the project that I did was basically a post and pre. So for one semester, half of the time they were doing the way where they're doing. I think they were sharing the information through Facebook, which obviously I couldn't be involved as a tutor. So for the half of the semester, that's what they were doing, and then for the other half of the semester, I introduced them to Google Slides and basically said, this could be a collaborative platform. So this is what they basically came up with. So I got them to give me feedback and so forth. So this is some of the free text comments. So the core thing was they're saying, well, it's an effective way for us to share information. So let's look at this. So this is the slides they created, and this is not just one student. It's students pulling together their information. And so this is the idea of pulling information together to have a better understanding. So they're saying, we were able to amalgamate the information. The other thing was about having that discussion being focused. So rather than trying to draw or say, well, I have it in my notebook, they can easily show this and talk about this. And the other thing was it makes efficient because they don't have to necessarily write those notes if they haven't, because it's already available there. These are the two things I didn't anticipate, and mostly it was about some of the students felt, well, now they can take ownership because they've incorporated material. Then they felt that it was motivation for them to contribute to the PBL, and so for some of them it felt like it was good homework because others were doing it, so they feel a little bit pressure. I don't know whether that's ethical or not, but surely it's good for me to feel pressure to contribute. So I know, because then they have this purposeful revision resource as well. Lastly, what I want to talk about is this revision history. What that means is as tutors or anybody can see who contributed to what. So this allows for me to give feedback to students. If they haven't contributed, then I can say, well, others have contributed, you perhaps need to contribute a bit more. And this gives us this discussion to think about whether something like this we can use to obtain learner analytics as well as give feedback. So with that in mind, I'd like to conclude saying that I found Google Slides as a good platform for collaborative learning as well as obtaining learner analytics. Thank you very much for your attention.